To be somewhat honest, I haven't met with President Assad since his arrival in Moscow, but I plan to do so. I'll definitely talk to him, but you and I, well, adults understand, yes. A man, Austin, vanished in Syria 12 years ago. We understand what the situation was like there 12 years ago. There was active fighting there on both sides. Does the president of TASS himself know what happened to this American citizen, journalists who, as I understand it, were performing their journalistic duty in the war zone? But nevertheless, I promise that I will definitely ask this survey. Just as I can ask a question, can we ask questions of those people who control the situation on the ground in Syria today? You said what we can offer. I can suggest, President-elect Trump, when are we going to meet with him? Well, first of all, I don't know when we're going to meet him because he doesn't say anything about it. I haven't spoken to him in over 4 years. And I am ready for this, of course, at any time, and I will be ready for a meeting if he wants it. You said that this conversation will take place in a situation where I will be in some weakened state. Dear colleagues, because despite all the persecution of our press, we allow you to work in Russia and you do it freely. You and those people who pay you wages in the United States, I would very much like Russia to be in a weakened position. I take a different point of view. I believe that Russia has become much stronger over the previous 23 years. Why? We are becoming a truly sovereign nation. Do we not depend on anyone anymore? We are able to confidently stay on our feet from the point of view of the economy. I have already said about the pace of economic development. We are significantly bolstering our defenses. The readiness of our armed forces today is, confidently speaking, at the highest place in the world. At the highest place in the world. The same goes for our defense industry. We are increasing the production of everything that is needed for our armies and navy, and at the present moment and in the future, we are doing this fairly confidently at a fast pace. What about our adversaries? We talked about the success of our armed forces, not least because of growth. We are focused on the production capacity of Russia's defense industries. I reiterate, we are doing this confidently and rationally. It was said that our troops are advancing on the line of combat contact. So what? Due to which? Including due to the availability of the equipment I just mentioned. Yes, practically all NATO countries are at war with us. However, we were discussing our inflation and its consequences, including the impact of a single projectile. It cost $2,000 2 years ago, and now it builds 8. The price has increased 4 times if all actions develop at the same pace. It's not just 2%. On defense spending, on which he has always insisted and now insists, the newly elected president with Xi and Mr. Trump, NATO countries will not be enough, even 3% will not be enough. Training and combat readiness. The internal state of the Russian troops is not such. Perhaps today there is no army in the world. Therefore, I believe that Russia is today, to a large extent, in the state that we achieved it, has strengthened. It has become a genuinely sovereign nation. They will make the decisions, and we will be guided purely by our national interests without any external influence. You mentioned Syria. Well, I repeat, they pay you your salary. I wish to present everything occurring in Syria not as a failure or a defeat for Russia. I assure you that's not the case. And let me explain why we went to Syria 10 years ago, to prevent certain developments from taking place there. A terrorist enclave similar to what we have seen in some other countries, say Afghanistan. In general, we have achieved our goal, and even those groups that fought the Assad regime with government troops have undergone internal changes. It is not for nothing that many European countries and the United States want to establish relations with them if they are terrorist organizations. Why are you going there? So they've changed, haven't they? This means that the goal has been achieved in the knowledge. Further, we did not have ground troops in Syria. There were simply no 2 bases there, our Air Force and Naval. The ground component consisted of the armed forces of Syria itself and some, as we all know, where no one has any secrets, well, the so-called pro-Iranian combat formations. It's us, we identified even from there. At one time, due to a special operation, we didn't simply fight there, but what happened there? That's when armed opposition groups have approached Aleppo. Aleppo defended about 30,000 people entered the city. 350 fighters. Government troops, and with them the so-called pro-Iranian units, withdrew without a fight, blew up their positions and left, and also practically, well, with a few exceptions where there were. There were some clashes, but there were also clashes throughout Syria. If earlier, let's say, our Iranian friends asked, we should assist in moving their units to Syria. Now they've asked for withdrawal. We also relocated 4,000 Iranian fighters from there. The Hmeimim base in Tehran. Some of the so-called pro-Iranian units left without a fight to Lebanon, some to Iraq. But today the situation is developing. It is not easy, of course. In the Syrian Arab Republic, we are very much counting on peace and tranquility. We maintain relations with all groups that control the situation with all countries in the region. The overwhelming majority of them tell us that they would be interested in keeping our military base in Syria. I don't know. We have to think about it because we have to decide for ourselves how we will develop relations with those political forces that now control and will control the situation in this country in the future. And our interests must coincide. If we stay there, it means that we must do something interesting to the side where we are, what the interests will be, what we can do for them. This is a question awaiting the diligent researcher on both sides. But even now we can do something, including using these bases, and we have already offered this to our partners, including those in Syria and neighboring countries, to use, say, the Kimim air base to deliver humanitarian aid to Syria. And this is accepted with understanding and with the desire to organize this work together. The same applies to the naval base in Tartus. Who wouldn't want to see Russia weakened? You know this because you're an American. I want to remember a well-known man and writer who once said that the rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated. What if we have? And if someday there happens to be a meeting with President-elect Trump, I am absolutely sure we will have plenty to talk about.
Vladimir Vladimirovich, I would like to remind you of another question. A colleague asked about the murder of General Kirillov.
Yes, you said about the murder of General Kerry Kirillov. He is immensely grateful for this because you indirectly admitted that this was indeed a terrorist act. Why, you ask? Because this murder was committed in a manner that endangered the lives of many. The regime in Kiev has repeatedly committed numerous crimes, terrorist crimes in fact. Terrorist attacks against many citizens of the Russian Federation and in a jacket. Now, when they shoot civilians and, well, there is, I mean in the Kursk region and in other territories of Russia, they killed journalists, your colleagues. Terrorist attacks were perpetrated against journalists. We have never heard, not that I'm suggesting you personally, but we have never heard a single condemnation from the Western Journalistic Corps on such terrorist acts. Yes, I'm grateful to you for at least remembering this.
Now let's work a little more in the hall. There is great interest here. Here I see the BRICS Tatars seem to have been there quite recently, by the way.
Speaking, I apologize, For the moment, I would like to contact your esteemed American colleague. If you can hear me, yes. If there are any further questions you may have, please feel free to ask.
Now then, let's return to Kazan for a while.
Let's give you some time to think, yes, and formulate a response. We'll showcase Fatars, and we will engage in discussions with the Americans later on.
The essential question is this.
You said that Ukraine should make compromises, but are you ready for these compromises? What are you willing to offer as concessions? Maybe in the negotiations that will happen?
I sincerely apologize for missing this very crucial aspect of your question. Politics is the art of compromise, and we have always said that we are ready for negotiations and compromises. Just a bad country, in the literal and figurative sense of the word, a bad country refused to negotiate. And we are always ready for this. The result of compromises in these negotiations is always compromises, because we have reached an agreement, basically in Istanbul at the end of 2022. And as I have reiterated, the Ukrainian side 100 times, I initialed this document, so you generally agreed with it. Then for some reason they refused, but why is it clear? Because your ally, Mr. Jones, has arrived. Such a good haircut. Did a man tell you that they need to fight to the last Ukrainian? Here they are fighting quickly. These Ukrainians who want to fight there are ending, in my opinion. Soon there will be no one left who wants to fight. We are fully prepared, but it's crucial that the other country is also ready to engage in negotiations and find a compromise.
Thank you.